ages have passed since the great battle, and the memory of the enemy has faded into the songs of old men, and the dusty scrolls of Gondor in the quiet corners of the world. Life flourishes in blissful ignorance of the void, but darkness is not a fire that is easily extinguished. It is a slow-growing vine, patient and cold. In the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie, a pulse has returned to the earth. A masterless power is stirring, calling out to its long-lost soul, the gold that was forged in the fires of ruin! The wizard came at dawn, his brow furrowed with a weight the Shire had never known. He spoke of a ring, a simple trinket of a thief that now burned with the heat of a dead sun. The peace of the meadows was an illusion. The hunt had begun, and the nine were already on the road, their breath a freezing mist, their eyes searching for the small and the In the quiet corners of the world, there is a place called the Shire, where the inhabitants care for little more than good food, warm hearts, and the growing of yellow flowers. It was the 111th birthday of Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit of remarkable age and even more remarkable secrets. The tents were pitched, the fireworks were ready, and for one final night, the world felt small and safe and golden.
Underneath the summer sky, but the heavy road is coming on.
Keep it secret, keep it safe, a burden for the smallest wave. The fire is lit, the door is wide, with nowhere left for us to
Frodo's hand, cold, heavy, and seemingly innocent. But Gandalf knew the truth. It was a seed of fire, a link to a malice that was waking in the east. The years of peace were over. The ring had been found, and the shadow of the enemy was stretching out its hand. Keep it secret, the wizard whispered. Keep it safe, for the hunt has begun. The Shire was sleeping, wrapped in a blanket of silver mist. For the four companions, the road was a thread of safety through the unknown. But the air had grown cold. A sudden unnatural chill that bit through their cloaks behind them. From the darkness of the trees came a sound. The heavy, rivulent breath and the slow, deliberate crunch of iron-shod hooves on the dry earth.
there's no need for light. It sniffs the wind for traces of a secret made of gold, a hunger from an ancient time, a story yet untold. The shadow is near, don't move. The silence is fear. The black rider searches the roots and the stone, hunting for something that isn't his own.
They crouched beneath the gnarled roots of a great oak, the smell of damped earth and rot filling their lungs above them. The rider paused, did not see with eyes, but felt with a malice that reached into their very minds. A long, pale hand reached out, searching the air as a high, thin wail broke the silence. A cry that was not of this earth.
Thickets where the briars tore our skin. The ranger moved with a silent, predatory grace, his eyes never leaving the horizon. He spoke of the 5 who were behind us, and the 4 who were ahead. This was no longer a journey, it was a hunt. And we were the prey, led by a man whose name was a whisper in the north, a king in the guise of a vagabond! Sul, the world went cold. The ruins of the watchtower offered no shelter. They came at us not with a roar, but with a freezing silence that drained the marrow from our bones. 5 tall figures shrouded in gray, stepping into the ring of firelight. I saw the ranger draw his steel, not a king yet, but a warrior standing against the tide of 1,000 years!
Cold heights of Sul. The world dissolved into shadow. I felt the bite of the Morgul steel. A cold, venomous flame that licked at my heart. The world of the living became a blur of grey mist, and the 9 were no longer shadows, but tall, terrible kings of old. I was fading, slipping into a void where the light of the sun could not reach. I woke to the smell of pine and the sound of a waterfall. I was alive. In the halls of Elrond, I found an old friend sitting by a fire.
Bilbo, aged by years yet bright of eye. He gave me a shirt of silver mail, light as a feather and hard as dragon scale, and a blade named Sting that glowed with a cold blue light. I am too old for adventures, Frodo, he whispered. But you are just beginning.
I sought counsel from the head of my order. Saruman the White, I went to Isengard, seeking a light in the growing darkness. But I found only a cold, mechanical ambition. His robes were no longer white, but woven of all colors that shimmered with a cruel light. He spoke of power, of joining with the new order of the East. The wise had grown foolish. The shepherd had become the wolf.
A sleeper in the tower is finally awake. He's building an empire of iron and of steam, the waking nightmare of a wizard's dream.
He imprisoned me upon the very summit, where the wind howls with the voices of the dead below. The beautiful valley was being torn asunder. Trees fell to feed the fires of his new machinery. But help came on the wings of the wind. Gwaihir, the Wind Lord, bore me away before the gates of Isengard. Could claim my soul forever. of Imladris. The air carried the scent of pine and the weight of ancient stars. They came from the world of men, the halls of stone, and the high green forests around the Council of Elrond. The last lights of the West gathered to face the dying of the age. Decisions were weighed in the balance of wisdom, while the ring sat cold and silent, a golden poison in the heart of beauty. Silent. As the small one stepped forward, "I will take the ring," he whispered, "though I do not know the way." Elrond looked upon the halfling, and for a moment the future flickered like a candle in a storm. The fellowship was cast, but as they looked south, the wind turned cold. The mountains were waiting, the eye was turning.
And the road ahead was paved in shadow!
The mines and came upon the tomb of Balin. Son of Fundin, the dwarf Gimli shed a tear for his kin. But the grief was cut short. The drums began in the dark. a slow revealing that shook the very foundations of the earth. We fled through the halls of our ancestors, now a tomb of shadow and bone. Then he appeared, a shadow of ancient fire, a terror that had slept since the dawn of time. The Balrog, a demon of might, rising from the abyss to claim the last of the light.
Through the pillars, through the black, there is no road for turning back. A wall of fire, whip of flame, the beast that has no mortal name. The stone is cracking underfoot. The fire reaches for the roots. He stands alone upon the grave to hold the darkness at the bay.
He stood upon the narrow span, a small figure against the towering inferno you cannot pass. He cried, his voice ringing like a hammer on an anvil. The staff splintered, the rock gave way, and the wizard was on the edge of being consumed by the void beneath him.
Fly, you fools, the bridge is broken. The final word of power is spoken. Into the shadow, into the night, the great pilgrim falls for the light. Fly, you fools.
We ran into the blinding sunlight of the mountainside. But the world had gone cold, and the peril only seemed to deepen. Our guide was gone. The light that illuminated our pathway was lost to the darkness. The fellowship was broken. We stumbled into a land where time itself seemed to hold its breath, Lothlórien. To the weary, it was a dream of silver. To the fearful, a prison of ancient enchantments. Here, the Lady of the Wood walked in the morning mist, her power a shield against the storm. She led us to a silver basin, a mirror of water that could show things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass.
summer shadows pass, I see the mirror's surface, a vision cold and deep, the secrets of the starlight that even wizards keep. Lothlórien is fading, the light is turning low, the magic of the starlight has nowhere left to go. A queen of light is standing beside the silver bowl. The temptation of the shadow is reaching for her soul. The ring tempted her, and for a moment we saw a queen beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night. But the test was passed. She would diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel. She gave us gifts of rope and bread, and a light for the dark places when all other lights go out. As we drifted down the great river, the golden eaves vanished into the gray, leaving us with the weight of the choice that lay ahead.
The river Anduin carried us to the brink of the falls, but the true danger lay within. The ring had begun its silent work, eating at the heart of the proudest among us. Boromir, son of kings, succumbed to the golden fever. In a moment of madness, the bond was severed, and the fellowship scattered into the woods of Parth-Galen. The horn of Gondor blew one last desperate note, and then there was only the sound of the Uruk-hai.
found him under a tree, the sunlight fading on his face. He had fought for the halflings. He had redeemed his soul with his blood. We watched the boat vanish over the falls of Rauros, a king returning to the water. The fellowship was over. Two small figures were alone on the eastern shore, walking toward the land where the shadows lie.